The silver pickup rolled to a stop on the side of the highway just as the morning sun painted the sky gold. Cars rushed past. Trucks thundered by. And sitting behind the steering wheel was a man who felt as if his entire future had just broken down with that engine. Ronan Mercer stared at the dashboard lights flashing like warning signals from fate itself. The truck wasn't just transportation. It was his livelihood. His construction company had only 3 employees. Every tool he owned was in the back. Every contract he had lined up for the next month depended on that truck moving. Now it wouldn't move at all. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, hard work, and second chances still matter in today's world, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life. The tow truck arrived 40 minutes later. Ronan sat silently during the ride to the nearest dealership. He already knew repairs wouldn't be cheap. What he didn't know was that this would become the beginning of a journey nobody could have predicted. The first dealership inspected the truck for 2 hours. The service manager returned with a serious expression. The transmission was gone. Complete failure. Replacement required. Estimated cost, nearly $9,000. Ronan felt his stomach drop. $9,000 might as well have been $90,000. He thanked them and left. The next morning, hoping for a second opinion, he drove the barely functioning truck to another dealership. They reached the same conclusion. Transmission failure. Replacement necessary. A third dealership said the same thing. A fourth confirmed it. A fifth dealership repeated the diagnosis almost word for word. Each estimate landed somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000. Each technician seemed completely certain. Each report felt like another nail in the coffin. For 2 weeks Ronan struggled to keep his business alive. Jobs were postponed. Clients became impatient. Bills continued arriving. Every evening he sat at the kitchen table calculating numbers that refused to work. Across from him sat his 12-year-old daughter, Nia. Since losing his wife 4 years earlier, Ronan had raised Nia alone. She had watched him fight through every challenge life had thrown at them. She had watched him work 16-hour days. She had watched him skip meals so she could attend school trips and buy new clothes. Now she watched him silently staring at unpaid invoices. The house felt heavier every day. One afternoon, after another exhausting meeting with a bank representative who declined his loan request, Ronan drove aimlessly through town. The truck shuddered. The gears slipped. The transmission groaned. Yet somehow it kept moving. Then something caught his attention. At the edge of town stood an old building he had never noticed before. The faded sign hanging above the entrance read, Hollow Creek Garage. The paint was peeling. The parking lot was cracked. The building looked forgotten. It certainly didn't look like a place capable of solving a problem 5 major dealerships couldn't fix. Still, desperation has a way of opening doors pride keeps closed. Ronan pulled in. An old bell rang as he entered. The smell of oil and metal filled the air. Inside stood a man wiping his hands with a worn shop towel. His name was Gideon Hale. At first glance there was nothing remarkable about him. No expensive uniform. No fancy equipment. No polished customer lounge. Just an aging mechanic with gray hair, weathered hands, and calm eyes. Ronan explained everything. The breakdown. The dealership reports. The enormous estimates. Gideon listened quietly. When Ronan finished, the mechanic simply nodded. Then he asked a question nobody else had asked. What exactly happened the moment the problem started? The question surprised Ronan. The dealerships had focused on computer readings. They had focused on error codes. None had seemed interested in the story behind the failure. For the next 10 minutes Ronan described every detail he could remember. Gideon listened carefully. Then he smiled. Not a confident smile. Not a salesman's smile. Just the smile of someone curious. He asked if he could keep the truck for a day. Ronan agreed. The following morning felt endless. Every hour stretched longer than the last. By afternoon Ronan's anxiety had reached its limit. Then his phone rang. It was Gideon. The mechanic's voice sounded unusually cheerful. He asked Ronan to come by the garage. Immediately. Ronan's heart sank. Perhaps the transmission really was destroyed. Perhaps the old mechanic had simply confirmed what everyone else already knew. When he arrived, Gideon stood waiting outside. The silver pickup sat nearby. Something looked different. It was running. Smoothly. Quietly. Almost perfectly. Ronan froze. He couldn't understand what he was seeing. Gideon handed him the keys. The mechanic explained that after tracing the issue manually, he discovered something none of the dealerships had caught. A damaged sensor and a corroded wiring connection had been sending false signals to the transmission control system. The transmission itself wasn't dead. It had been receiving incorrect information. The computer interpreted the problem as catastrophic failure. The dealerships trusted the codes. Gideon trusted the symptoms. Instead of replacing the transmission, he repaired the wiring, replaced the faulty sensor, and thoroughly tested the system. Total cost? $372. For several seconds Ronan couldn't speak. He simply stared. The difference between nearly $10,000 and $372 felt impossible. Then he drove the truck. The transmission shifted perfectly. No slipping. No grinding. No hesitation. It felt brand new. By the time he returned to the garage, tears were filling his eyes. Not because of the truck. Because of what it meant. His business could survive. His employees could keep their jobs. His daughter wouldn't have to watch another dream collapse. For the first time in weeks, hope returned. But the story wasn't over. Not even close. Word travels quickly in small towns. Especially when 5 major dealerships get something wrong. Within days customers started hearing about Hollow Creek Garage. People shared the story online. Local forums discussed it. Drivers began arriving from neighboring towns. Many came seeking second opinions. Many left shocked. Again and again Gideon discovered simple problems hidden beneath expensive diagnoses. Again and again customers saved thousands. Again and again trust grew. Meanwhile Ronan found himself returning frequently. Not because his truck needed repairs. Because he wanted to understand the man who had changed everything. Over coffee one afternoon, Gideon finally revealed why he worked differently. Years earlier he had been one of the most respected diagnostic specialists in the state. Major dealerships had offered him lucrative positions. Yet he walked away. He explained that modern repair systems often encourage technicians to trust computers more than experience. Many mechanics had become code readers instead of problem solvers. Gideon believed machines could assist judgment. They should never replace it. That philosophy had cost him promotions. It had cost him opportunities. But it had preserved something more valuable. His integrity. Ronan never forgot those words. Months passed. His business recovered. Contracts returned. New customers arrived. Revenue increased. The future looked brighter than it had in years. Then one afternoon something extraordinary happened. A local news station aired a feature about Hollow Creek Garage. The segment exploded across social media. Millions of people watched. Millions heard the story of the tiny garage that succeeded where giant dealerships failed. And at the center of that story stood a single father whose life had been changed by one mechanic's refusal to follow assumptions. Before we reach the ending, take a moment to tell us where you're watching from and share a heart emoji in the comments if you've ever received help when you needed it most. What happened next would leave the entire town speechless. Within weeks, investors approached Gideon. National automotive organizations contacted him. Training schools requested partnerships. Reporters arrived from across the country. The forgotten garage that once struggled to pay utility bills suddenly became a symbol of honesty, craftsmanship, and old-fashioned problem-solving. Yet despite all the attention, Gideon remained exactly the same. He still opened the shop every morning before sunrise. He still greeted customers personally. He still treated every vehicle as if it belonged to family. And perhaps that was the most remarkable part of all. Success never changed him. Years later, Ronan often thought about the day his truck broke down on that highway. At the time it felt like disaster. It felt like the end. Instead, it became the beginning. The beginning of renewed hope. The beginning of unexpected friendships. The beginning of a story that reminded thousands of people that expertise isn't measured by the size of a building or the cost of equipment. Sometimes wisdom lives in forgotten places. Sometimes miracles wear grease-stained gloves. Sometimes the answer everyone misses is found by the one person willing to look a little deeper. And sometimes a struggling single father discovers that the darkest moment of his journey was actually leading him toward the people who would help him keep moving forward. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share this video, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire. Your support allows these powerful stories of resilience, kindness, and second chances to reach more people around the world. Remember this. Never underestimate honest work. Never underestimate experience. And never underestimate the impact one person can have when they choose integrity over convenience. Because one old garage didn't just save a truck. It saved a future.